There is a math problem that separates ordinary genius from something else entirely. I have seen brilliant people attempt this problem. Mathematicians, physicists, people who could solve equations that would make your head spin. They all approach it the same way. They think for a while. They see the trick. They find the shortcut. They solve it in a few minutes, feeling clever about themselves. Von Neumann solved it in seconds. And when someone said, "Ah, you saw the trick," von Neumann looked confused. "Trick," he said. "What trick?" "I just summed the infinite series." In his head. Instantly. That's when I understood something about von Neumann. His brain was not a faster version of a human mind. It was something else entirely. Let me tell you what I saw. The problem is simple to state. Two trains are on the same track, 200 miles apart. They are heading toward each other. Each train travels at 50 miles per hour. At the moment they start, a fly takes off from the front of one train. The fly travels at 75 miles per hour, faster than either train. The fly races toward the other train. When it reaches that train, it instantly turns around and flies back. When it reaches the first train, it turns around again. Back and forth, faster and faster as the trains get closer. Eventually, the trains collide. The fly is crushed between them. The question is, how far did the fly travel before it died? Now there are two ways to solve this problem. The hard way is to calculate each leg of the fly's journey. First, how far does the fly travel before it reaches the second train? Then calculate the second leg. Then the third. Then the fourth. The fly makes an infinite number of trips. Each trip is shorter than the last. To find the total distance, you have to sum an infinite series. This is not easy. Most people cannot do it at all. Mathematicians can do it with pencil and paper. It takes 10 or 15 minutes. It requires concentration. It requires care. The easy way is to see the trick. The trains are 200 miles apart. They approach each other at a combined speed of 100 miles per hour. Therefore, they will collide in exactly 2 hours. The fly is traveling at 75 miles per hour. If it flies for 2 hours, it travels 150 miles. That's it. That's the answer. 150 miles. The trick is to ignore the fly's path entirely. Just calculate how long it flies. Then multiply by its speed. Simple. Most clever people, when they hear this problem, eventually see the trick. It might take them a few minutes. It might take them longer. But they get there. Von Neumann did not see the trick. He did not need to. The story was told to me by Stan Ulam. Stan was a brilliant mathematician. Polish. Funny. Sharp. He and von Neumann were close friends at Los Alamos. They stayed friends afterward. One evening at a party, Stan decided to test von Neumann with this puzzle. He knew von Neumann's reputation. He wanted to see it for himself. So he posed the problem. 2 trains. A fly. How far does the fly travel? Von Neumann listened. His face went blank for a moment. Maybe 2 seconds, maybe 3. Then he said, 150 miles. Stan smiled. He thought he had caught von Neumann taking the shortcut like everyone else. "Ah," Stan said. "You saw the trick. Most people try to sum the infinite series." Von Neumann looked puzzled. Genuinely puzzled. "What trick?" he said. "I summed the series." Stan stared at him. In those 2 or 3 seconds, von Neumann had set up the infinite series in his head. He had calculated the convergence ratio. He had applied the formula for a geometric sum. He had arrived at the answer. While other mathematicians needed pencil and paper and 15 minutes of careful work, von Neumann had done it instantly, silently, in the time it takes to blink. That was von Neumann. This was not an isolated incident. I saw von Neumann do things like this at Los Alamos. Everyone did. It became almost routine, which tells you how strange our lives had become. One afternoon, we were discussing a calculation problem, something to do with the implosion design. The math was messy. We needed to figure out how shock waves would behave inside the plutonium core. We were all thinking out loud, different approaches. getting stuck, starting over. Von Neumann went quiet for maybe 10 seconds. Then he gave us the answer, the full solution, every step. He just spoke it out loud, like he was reading from a page that only he could see. He had done the entire calculation in his head. While we were still trying to set up the problem, he had already solved it. I turned to Beta. Beta just smiled, like this was normal, like this happened every day. It did happen every day, that was the thing. You couldn't surprise Beta with von Neumann's abilities anymore. He had seen too much. You have to understand what von Neumann's mind was like, because this wasn't ordinary intelligence. This was something else. Eugene Wigner won the Nobel Prize in physics. He knew everyone. Einstein, Heisenberg, Dirac, Planck. The greatest physicists of the 20th century were his colleagues and friends. Years later, Wigner said something I never forgot. He said, "I have known a great many intelligent people in my life. I knew Max Planck. I knew Werner Heisenberg. Paul Dirac was my brother-in-law. Leo Szilard and Edward Teller have been among my closest friends. And Albert Einstein was a good friend too." Then he said, "But none of them had a mind as quick and acute as von Neumann." I have often remarked this in the presence of those men, and no one ever disputed me. Think about that. Wigner said this in front of Einstein, in front of Heisenberg. None of them argued. They knew it was true. Hans Bethe, my mentor, once said von Neumann's brain might be an emergent organ, of a different order of complexity than ordinary mortals. He wasn't joking. Bethe was a serious man. He didn't exaggerate. Let me tell you what von Neumann could do. When he was 6 years old, he could divide two 8-digit numbers in his head. Not on paper. In his head. By 8, he had mastered calculus. By 12, he had read a 46-volume world history series and remembered all of it. Every name, every date, every battle. He could memorize phone books. Entire phone books. Years later, you could quiz him on any name, any number. He would give you the answer and tell you exactly where it appeared on the page. At RAND, the military think tank in California, they paid von Neumann a full monthly salary, but not for full-time work. The contract said they were paying for the time he spent shaving. They wanted whatever scraps of thought came to him while he looked in the mirror each morning. That's how valuable his idle moments were. One day at RAND, some researchers came to von Neumann with a problem. A hard problem. They needed to design a cutting-edge computer to solve it. They gave him a 2-hour presentation. Charts, tables, blackboard after blackboard of equations. When they finished, von Neumann thought for a moment. Then he said, "Gentlemen, you don't need a new computer. The answer is..." And he gave them the answer. In his head. While they were still explaining the problem, he had already solved it. I think differently than von Neumann did. When I work on a physics problem, I see pictures. I see little particles jiggling and wiggling. I see waves moving through space. I see colors, shapes, motions. It is hard to explain. I once tried to describe it in an interview. I said, "I see the jiggle, 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 the wiggle of the path. It is all visual. My famous diagrams, the ones that carry my name, came from this way of thinking. I was trying to draw what I saw in my head. The pictures came first. Mathematics came later." Von Neumann did not think this way. Von Neumann thought in symbols, pure symbols. He could manipulate them faster than anyone, but he was not seeing pictures. He was doing something else entirely, something I could never quite understand. Stan Ulam said von Neumann's mind was like a machine, with gears machined to mesh accurately to 1,000th of an inch. Pure precision. No waste, no friction, just calculation. This is why von Neumann could sum an infinite series in his head. But I could not. His mind was built for that kind of raw calculation. Mine was built for something else. Neither way is better. They are just different. But I will tell you this. When I watched von Neumann work, I felt like a child watching a magician. I knew it was not magic. I knew there had to be an explanation. but I could not see how he did it. The fly problem is a perfect example. If you gave me that problem, I would eventually see the trick. I would realize that I do not need to track the fly at all. I would find the elegant solution, the simple one. Von Neumann did not see the trick. He did not need to. He could just compute his way through, faster than I could think. Two different paths to the same answer. Neither of us was wrong. We were just different. We used to go for walks at Los Alamos. On Sundays, when we could spare the time, von Neumann would come along sometimes, with Hans Bitu, Bacher, and a few others. We would walk through the canyons, talk about physics, talk about life, talk about nothing. Von Neumann was different on those walks. Relaxed, almost human. He told jokes, dirty jokes mostly. He had an endless supply of them. He told them with the same precision he brought to everything else. Perfect timing, perfect delivery. He also gave me advice. There was a moment I do not remember exactly when I was struggling with something. The weight of what we were building perhaps, the knowledge of what it would do. Von Neumann looked at me and said something I have never forgotten. You do not have to be responsible for the world you are in. I thought about that for a long time. What he meant, I think, was this. We cannot control the consequences of our actions. We cannot predict them. The world is too complicated, and we are too small. All we can do is make our choices and live with them, worrying about everything, feeling guilty about everything, taking responsibility for everything. That is a kind of arrogance. It assumes we have more power than we do. Von Neumann did not worry. He calculated. He decided. He moved on. I am not sure he was right, but his advice helped me. It made me a happier man, even if it did not make me a better one. Here is what I learned from watching von Neumann. There is not one kind of genius. There are many kinds. Von Neumann could do things I could never do. He could hold vast structures of symbols in his head and manipulate them instantly. He could solve problems by brute force that I could not solve at all. But I could do things he could not do. I could see pictures that he could not see. I could find shortcuts by intuition that he would have to calculate. The world needs both. The people who ask why does this work, and the people who ask how do I make this work. Von Neumann could do things I could not. I could do things he could not. And both of us looked at the other and wondered how they did it. Von Neumann died in 1957. Cancer. He was only 53 years old. The last months were hard. The cancer spread to his brain. Von Neumann, who could calculate infinite series in seconds, could no longer remember basic mathematics. The universe does not care how smart you are. Near the end, his mind was failing. The sedatives and the pain had taken most of what made him who he was. The military posted guards outside his hospital room. They were afraid he might babble classified secrets about nuclear weapons. Even dying, he was considered a security risk. That is how much he knew. But von Neumann did not speak English anymore. He spoke Hungarian, the language of his childhood, the language his mother had used when he was a little boy, in Budapest. Before all of this, before Princeton, before Los Alamos, before he became the fastest mind in the world, and when his brother sat beside him, von Neumann recited Goethe's Faust from memory, the whole thing, word for word. Even at the end, that mind was still working, still calculating, still remembering. I think about the fly problem sometimes. That moment at the party, Stan asking the question, von Neumann thinking for 2 seconds, the answer appearing from nowhere. He said, "What trick?" I summed the series. That was von Neumann, a mind that could do what no other mind could do. A man who saw the world as a series of problems to be solved, and who solved them faster than anyone thought possible. I miss him. I miss watching him work. I miss the jokes on those Sunday walks. I miss the feeling of being near something extraordinary, something that made me feel small and inspired at the same time. There will never be another von Neumann. I am certain of that. If this story meant something to you, hit subscribe. I tell stories like this about the real lives of the scientists who changed our world. I'll see you in the next one.